There we go. Okay. Let's stack those. Now, where's my other gloves? Do I not have any? Damn it, ran out of gloves. Oh. Let's do it the old-fashioned way then. Okay. That one there. There we go. That's better. Okay. Any gloves over here? Alas, I do not. Alrighty. Go here then, go there, go everywhere. And go away. And show that one. Alright. Let's start polishing up some frets. Most exciting job in the world. Backwards and forwards and 5 million times over and over and over again. And it's one of those jobs that people don't seem to realize just how much actually goes into these. You come in, not only do you have to obviously level them and that, but then you've got all the big heavy scratches on them. And that takes time to remove, so you've got to go through with gradually finer and finer pieces of sandpaper. So, starting right now, we've got ourselves some 600 grit. Yep, who's calling me? No clue, they can leave a voicemail. I swear, I get like 4 or 5 scam calls a day now. Ever since that whole Medibank data hack that happened a while back. It's rather annoying. I'm not with them anymore because I'm getting 2 phone calls at the same time from the same extension. That is, that's a new one. It's kind of funny though, I got some calls the other day from Yemen of all places. Absolutely wild. Why are you still calling? I'm not going to answer. Leave a voicemail and I might consider it. But yeah, as I was saying, ever since I got my details compromised with so many other people for the whole Medibank thing, I've been getting non-stop calls from scammers, which has been a real pain in the ass. It's kind of annoying as well because there's been like this massive increase in like bot activity on Facebook, getting hella lots of like the same stupid message of, oh, we are from Meta, we are going to delete your account unless you reply to this here. It's like, seriously, I'm not gonna like click on a link that's there, but it's only in the last like 2 months or so where it's really been getting bad. Prior to that, it wasn't so bad. You get obviously the obvious occasional people trying to fish your details and all that, but not to this degree. This has been absolutely insane. Like I'm getting 4, 5, 6 messages per account because I've got 2 different pages. I've got the one for the music shop and I've got one for the tuition business. And unfortunately, the one for both of them are getting those kinds of messages. It's a real headache. All right, who's this person and what the hell do they want? They have the voicemail, apparently. Let's find out. Let's see. Is this another Chinese scam caller? Oh, no, it's someone else. That's fine. I'll give them a buzz back later. Okay. On to the next one. Now I've got to go backwards and forwards over and over and over again, getting these frets all polished up, removing the scratches. The last thing you want is to go through and bend on a note and it feel rough underneath, almost like you got like sand or something going on. Also, I just realized I kind of look like a cut price Wolverine cosplay in the image. kind of happens when you don't go and go see your barber in like 2 months. This awful bloody faux beard going on because I'm the only wog on earth who can't grow a beard, and this hair that's just absolutely all over the place. A guy in his 30s, I have a lot of grey hair. That'll kind of happen with stress. And it's going to take absolute ages to do these frets. I had to take a fair bit off of these ones because this is a gigging guitar that gets gigged very, very heavily. So it's only like a few years old, but the fret indentations were huge, especially sort of between like the 3rd and 9th fret, like big, massive divots that were in there. So when you got big divots in them across those particular areas, what you've got is your intonation point that's being pushed closer towards the bridge, which makes the intonation off. But it also means that you've got more chance for buzz, not only through like the fret obviously being lower than the one that's in front of it, so if you have a lower action, it's going to be more likely to buzz. But if you've also got like a fret that's worn out and it's flat, then it kind of ends up like a sitar bridge. So that sitar effect, what it does is the string sits across, there's no distinct break angle for it. So instead of it being like a nice rounded over edge like that, it's like that. So the string will still vibrate off the edge there, and that's what gives you that kind of buzz. So if you don't go through and actually get rid of the what's on there, the flat spots, it will proceed to get worse, and the longer you leave it, the more work is required to actually get them done. So these frets have gone a fair bit flatter now because of how much material has actually been removed from them, because they were very, very worn. So what we're doing, going over with the 600 grit, because they were leveled, fair chunk was taken out with 220, and then the next step was 320 to kind of remove some of those scratches and do the final bit of leveling to bring them into contact. And now we're on to 600 grit, because 600 grit is where we're going to remove those scratches from the 320. After 320, 600, after 600, then we go up to 1200. So 1200 will basically sort of polish up the fret to a level where we can grab the Dremel wheel and go over it that way. Use the Dremel to do final polish with a bit of metal polishing compound, and that'll leave us with a nice silky smooth chromy looking finish. But to get there, polishing, in the words of the great Ted Woodford. I don't think I'm quite as zen as what he is. So I don't know. I suppose I'll try and be somewhat entertaining. Just depends on how many people actually come along and watch these things. But I'll keep doing them regardless of the audience, because it gives me a chance to just discuss things and vocalize stuff and try and find my voice, as it were. The same as anything. The more you practice with anything, the better you're going to get. The same as how we tell our music students in our music school. Even if it's 5 minutes a day, the more often you do it, the more likely you are to actually end up better than what you do. Some people are just, they've got that ability to progress further and faster. It's that natural talent thing. But natural talent doesn't mean, natural sort of like mastery. It means you'll sort of move along a bit quicker than some others, but you still have to put in the effort, still got to do the work. And the same goes with, all this kind of stuff, doing videos, doing live streams, doing that. Nobody just hits the ground and goes, I am phenomenally amazing at it straight away. You take a look at anyone when they first start, their first videos or things they put up, and they're not great. Maybe some people are like just spectacular the first time they do it, but it's because they spend also a lot of time like researching stuff and developing things and like practicing before they do it. Nobody just jumps online and goes, here is a fully polished product ready to go. They're going to stumble at first. It's not going to be absolutely ideal. And the same goes with repair too. You know, that's why a lot of people, when you start getting into repairs, you'll start by going out and buying some crap old gear, things you can pick up cheap, or even stuff that you own yourself, and you practice on it that way. You start fixing things, making them better, and then you sort of like look at your technique, you look at how good it was. Was that passable? Could this potentially be good enough for a customer? Could I charge money for this? Unfortunately, some people jump to starting to charge money before they ever sort of cross that part, and then some of us have to go out there and fix up the work that these people have done, which is not ideal at all. Depends though. Some people have a bit more of a knack for it than others, just because they've got an eye for detail. They come over from like an associated kind of industry in that. You know, for example, someone who's been in woodworking previously, like cabinet maker or something like that. Going into guitar repair is a bit easier because you've got that kind of understanding of this is wood, this is how we glue it together. Someone who might, for example, have worked in some kind of electronic field, maybe they've worked for a company doing design, or they've gone off and studied things, so then you're just sort of picking up the specifics of the things we work on, because working on a high gain amp is a whole other beast compared to, say for example, working on a radar system or working on automation systems or something like that. You're pushing a circuit to a weird degree that they don't teach you at TAFE, they don't teach you at uni, which is actually it was an interesting sort of thing that in a conversation that came up the other line online the other day. We're talking about transconductance. So transconductance is a sort of term and a property of electrical components, that especially stuff like tubes, where voltage goes in but current comes out. It's fundamental. You learn a lot about it in sort of radio electronics and old things and that, and component level things, but there are sort of people online who have degrees in electronic engineering had no idea what I was referring to in a tube amp group, because it's not taught at those tertiary levels. These people could like write absolute insane probably programs and design boards within certain specifications that were absolutely phenomenal. But these fundamental building blocks that a lot of sort of repair guys and older techs and that might know, it's not imparted knowledge anymore. It's a different world. So it's kind of like the builder who doesn't actually know how to properly wield a hammer. Hey, gentlemen, how are we? Windsor, Ontario in Canada. Starting to get cold up there now, isn't it? Starting to get a bit of snow. And California, where it never snows. Does it snow in California? Does it snow at the very north end of it? I know it definitely doesn't down in South Park, because that's kind of like, California is God's country when it comes to the weather and how it is absolutely perfect, all in all. So yeah, we're doing the absolute exciting stuff here of polishing, and just a random stream of consciousness from my brain to your ears. So still sort of tweaking a lot of the audio-related stuff for OBS and other bits and pieces. So if it sounds absolutely terrible, yeah. Cali has mountains. That it does, doesn't it? You've got there is some skiing over there, isn't there? See, whenever I think of California as an Aussie, of course we only think of the part where it's like, here's Hollywood, here's San Francisco, here's a desert, here's where all the tech bros are. But then, of course, you got like wine country, and then you got like, I suppose, further up north as well, because it is a very long state, isn't it? Kind of like, yeah, see, being an Aussie, we have like 2 ski fields across the entire country, and on the grand scheme of things, for most people around the world, they're pretty terrible. We are not known for our mountains or our snow or anything like that. Yeah, Aussies, when they want to ski, they'll jump across the ditch and go to New Zealand. Big Bear Mountain. Nice. A lot of my knowledge of California mainly comes from playing Fallout New Vegas as well. I have sunk countless hours into that game over the years because it's brilliant. It is one of the best games I've ever played. For someone like me, it's perfect. It's just, it'd be nice if they did a remaster and got it off the old Bethesda engine, because the Bethesda engine sucks ass. But, you know, that's never going to happen, unfortunately. So yeah, doing the wonderful, exciting polishing things, and this is why people get charged the big money, because, man, my hand's already killing me. I don't think this is the only one I've actually got to do today as well. I don't know. Check my queue. Still continuing on from this one from last night. A fair bit of work to go through, so I've actually just changed the trading hours for the shop this week, because retail sales are down all across the board. But repairs, people always need repairs. They need stuff fixed, especially when the economy is kind of bad. People are more willing to spend more money on fixing things. They'll actually go, oh, you know what? I don't have money to buy a new one, but this old one I've had for ages, and I could probably spend a bit more on it to actually make it, a bit more, usable again. Rather than spending $1,000 on a new one, I can spend maybe $400 or $500 getting this one fixed and kind of sticking with it. This is a very sweet Strat indeed, because it's not a Strat. Well, I mean, it is, but it's not. This is actually a Fujigen. There we go. So FGN, Fujigen Neoclassical. Fujigen, of course, is the factory that made the guitars for Fender, for Ibanez, for countless companies. And they've been in Australia for years. We used to be dealers for them until the company sort of messed around with them. But the thing that's great about them is that they are phenomenally well made. The pricing was excellent, and they ate. They ate Fenders for breakfast. They were just that good. For example, these, when we used to sell them, made in Japan, quarter sawn maple neck, good quality Japanese Alnico pickups, 2-point Goto trem, custom made for them with a big fat block inside of there. Good quality electronics. These ones were made out of Alder with a good quality poly finish on there. And we used to sell them for $22.99. Like, that was just insane. That's $22.99 Australian, mind you. So that's like, I don't know, $3.50 American. Maybe not that bad, but, they sold for very little money, but you got a lot of guitar for what you got. So it's kind of unfortunate that the distributor kind of went and messed with how the brand was positioned and the price points and that. Because, someone could walk in and they go, you know what, I want a Strat or a Tele. All right, cool, try this. I'm not here to sell it to you, but just try it. And they'd try it, and they'd be kind of floored and go, oh, I went off and tried like four other Strats at XYZ music shop, and I wasn't really sort of taken by them. But this thing is just like perfect. It's like, yes, because that is kind of the ethos of companies like Fujigen and sort of smaller makers. Grew up in Keizu, I assume that means Kalamazoo, and those Gricos, etc. are amazing. That is correct. So an interesting thing about Japan and their guitar making, right? So Japan is a nation of woodworkers. They have very, very little iron naturally over there, and the stuff that they do is junk, basically pig iron. That's why, for example, the whole thing of, a katana is folded 1,000 times to make it stronger. No, it was folded that many times to get rid of impurities in it because the iron was shit and there wasn't a lot of it. A lot of the iron actually came from, iron sands. So you had this sort of an entire nation of woodworkers. For example, you jump onto YouTube and look up, Japanese house building with no nails. There's still carpenters over there who build in the traditional way, where they'll put these big, massive, lengths of cedar and fir and whatever else together. And they're using these really, really complicated, intricate wood joints with no nails. putting it all together that way. So they've kind of like mastered how to do that. Of course, post-war, you had this big boom in that because the Americans throw money into the country to keep it operational, and they started making various things. So during that era, you had factories that started making instruments for the sort of like the local burgeoning, middle class that was starting to come out, and people were becoming obsessed with Western rock and roll music, and they wanted to be able to play that music. For example, one of the famed factories was Matsumoku. Matsumoku was actually a subdivision of the Singer Sewing Machine Corporation. So that particular factory was actually making cabinets for sewing machines. As home sewing machine use was starting to decline and they didn't need the big cabinets in the same kind of way, and people were starting to buy more of their own clothing, they actually started making instruments. So you had all of these woodworkers that were brilliant and phenomenal at what they did, starting to make terrible guitars. They were awful. They sucked. Those early guitars from the 50s and 60s and that were overbuilt and like super heavy bracing. They were just terrible. They were awkward. They were odd. So they had great abilities with wood, but they had very, very poor lutherie skills. Come the 60s, it was starting to change. They started picking up a little bit better, start getting a bit better at it. They were still copying weird sort of designs like from Britain and from companies like Burns and Ampeg and such. And then come the 70s, late 60s, early 70s, they were starting to copy the American builders. So you had Fender and Gibson, obviously, that they were copying, and some others. So these companies that were making these instruments that weren't great started copying guitars from places like the US. So you had the obviously the Grecos and the Ibanez's, the Tokais and that. And you had many, many factories. Even acoustics, they were starting to do clones of acoustics. So, like I said, they weren't great, but they started getting better, and they were now doing it on a kind of scale with the quality and that you just weren't getting from the US manufacturers at the time. Of course, obviously, in the US, you had Gibson that was owned by Norland Corporation. Norland owned everything from concrete manufacturing and processing to Doritos. So they weren't exactly sort of focused very well on maintaining the Gibson brand. They also purchased Moog and various other companies over that time, and as we know, this was the era of pancake bodies and volutes and even things like goof rings. So you look on like a Gibson Deluxe of the era and you see some of them have a second pickup ring around the outside. That's just to cover up the fact that it has a really, really shitty route. Like it's rough and it was oversized, so it didn't fit the pickup properly. Okay, so let's just put another plastic ring around the outside to cover up how it looks. Fender, of course, were owned by CBS, who were pushing for massive growth in the company to meet sales figures. They'd also purchased, was it Electro Music, I think it is, who were the parent, who was also known as Leslie. They purchased Rhodes from Harold Rhodes and started growing that way. And during that time, they were cranking out so many instruments, and they were literally just getting any slabs of wood they could, putting them on the pin routers and going for gold. A lot of those pin routers were starting to get really worn. The templates were getting worn. So you had, worn out cutting heads and all the rest of that. The neck pockets and that was sloppy as hell. They moved to the 3-bolt joint. It was actually good design. Leo, when he left and set up, he set up Music Man and then G&L. They both used 3-bolt neck joints that were superb. They were excellent. But Fender weren't doing it well because their neck pockets were out of whack hugely. So you had the ends and necks that weren't fitting the standardized size. The pockets were too small, so they'd go through and they'd hand route it out to try and fit it, ending up with huge sloppy tolerances. And because it was a 3-bolt neck, suddenly you had a pivot point. That main bolt that was used also for the tilt action and that, the neck would pivot around it. So a lot of jazz basses especially were really bad for that, where you'd actually be able to twist the neck side to side by a good degree or two, and you could hear it go creak. So when that was what was happening over in the US, the guys in Japan were still making excellent stuff, which is why they were getting into toy making. They were starting to do electronics and getting ahead on that sort of things. And the guitars that they were doing, they started bringing over some like luthiers and that from over in the US. For example, Yamaha wanted to be taken serious in the world of classical guitars. They brought over Jose Ferrer, I think his name was, and sort of set up the corner of the factory for doing high-end classical guitars using like second to none woods. I've actually got one here, which is a 1970 CG7, sorry, and that is stunning. Solid Brazilian rosewood back and sides, solid Ezo spruce top, amazing. They sold them pretty well at a loss to show, here we are, we're making good stuff. 3 master luthiers in that section, and they were making them that way to be able to prove that they could do it. They were also starting to pick up that with the FG series acoustics and moving on. Matsumoku, the factory, had gone from making like okay guitars with a good sort of build quality to suddenly making out really, really good copies. So they were taking these Fenders from the US and similar areas, measuring them out, copying them, and getting closer and closer to spec with each year that went by. So the 72s and 73s were kind of like off and weird and that. But then come like 74, 75, 76, they were pretty well one-to-one. They were phenomenal. So Matsumoku made guitars for Ibanez, for Greco, for others. You had companies like Tokai that were kind of unique and they had their own manufacturing facilities as well, so they were making their own guitars. And they were also copying them. They'd now gone from being good woodworkers to good luthiers. They were making instruments better than the US, at a fraction of the price, with a higher quality, with better woods in a lot of cases as well, because Japan had stacks and stacks of woods they bought up in the 50s and 60s, were sitting around for ages. And from there, you had companies that even now still have stacks of wood from the 50s that they're still working through in their piles. But back to what I was saying is that these factories were now making better quality instruments and they started exporting them. Because of the yen being so weak at that time, that's what fueled a lot of the Japanese export. That was what kind of made things go well for them. So they were shipping out guitars worldwide at a better price point than Fender and Gibson, and they were clones of them. Why? Because in Japan, trademark, copyright, and like what you can patent and all the rest of that is a bit different to the rest of the world. In Japan, you've actually got you can't like trademark just like an aesthetic of an instrument. So, for example, the Les Paul design, right down to the headstock, can't trademark that over there. Anyone can copy it. It is what it is. It's not like a design element of the guitar that's integral to its operation. Therefore, they were copying with the headstock, with everything. The Strat, same deal. Strat, headstock, the whole lot. You could copy it over there. That's actually why you can get one-to-one Strat bodies and replacements and all the rest of that, but you can't get Les Pauls or Gibson stuff with headstocks, the open book headstock. Come to that story in a bit, but Japan now got to a point where it was making better quality instruments and exporting them worldwide. They were being bought up in spades in countries like the US, right? What was that? Let's see. My buddy's dad worked at Gibson. I used to take my Les to Pete Monero after he retired and Gibson left. Nice. Yeah, some of those like old factories that were kind of like interesting. I wish I could have had a chat with some of those people and whatnot, but you know, it's one of those things that unfortunately is before my time, and I'm on the other side of the world. Back to what I was saying about guitars in Japan, right? So they started exporting them worldwide. They were ending up in the US. They were selling gangbusters because of the weak Japanese yen. This is where the lawsuit guitar thing comes into play, right? So the lawsuit era, a lot of people have, there's no definitive term. But when I say something like a lawsuit era, I'm referring to a period of basically between about sort of 72 and 80, that kind of ish, right? So the lawsuit actually had to do with Gibson and Elgin Corporation, I believe is what they were called at their time, now known as Hoshinogaki USA, aka Ibanez and Tama, right? Gibson had to fight for their trademark on the open book headstock. They went for the lawsuit, but what's interesting about the lawsuit was that Ibanez had actually already stopped using the open book headstock. They were using their own designs. They were actually moving away from clones at that point. But Gibson had to go through and actually had to continue with the lawsuit anyway, because in the US, if you don't fight for your trademark or whatever else like that, you can lose it. It becomes genericided. You've got to reinforce it. Gibson did that. They went to court. Gibson basically won. I can't remember if it was a settlement or if it was actually like, they won directly. And companies like Tokai and Greco and all the others could no longer sell into the US. They couldn't sell those products, right? Yes. G&L are pretty cool. They're just a nightmare to actually get here in Australia, and they take forever to do anything, and they're real kind of flaky on getting stuff. Bit of a nightmare, but that might just be our local realities here in Australia. So, Gibson sued the company that would become Ibanez USA and won. Therefore, you could no longer have the open book headstocks, and these companies could no longer sell them into the US. So they stopped. The rest of the world, though, they kept going. However, Fender, with their whole thing of being owned by CBS, didn't. They actually didn't fight for their trademark and the body shape for the Telecaster, the Stratocaster, the Jazz Bass, and the P Bass became genericided, which meant anyone could copy them. You didn't want it, you didn't fight for it, cool, anyone could do it now. It's no longer your design, it is our design. However, they did fight for the headstock, which is why you can't actually get any headstocks that have the Fender thing unless, which is really odd, you get it from one of, I think it was 4 companies that were allowed to continue selling them as a licensed by Fender product, because they were already doing it prior to that point, and part of, I think it was a settlement, was they could, which was Warmoth, Mighty Might, All Parts, and, oh God, who was the other one? WD, I think it was, yeah. So all of them could do could do those things and sell them, which is why, for example, companies like Nash could actually do it, because Nash guitars get their necks from those companies and they're licensed by Fender, and it's that whole thing. So, Japan was now making excellent quality instruments. They were doing stuff that was way, way better than the US and that, and shipping them worldwide. And even in the domestic market, they were now starting to do like high-end instruments. So like they were doing models like the EGF 1500 and similar. It had like one-piece Honduran mahogany necks with a Brazilian rosewood fretboard, all the right stuff. And they were like nitro finished, the whole lot. Everything was like spectacular. But you can only get them in Japan. They were sold in the Japanese market. Japan kept doing this, kept making instruments, kept exporting them to the world, and they were quite a good sort of value until Japan was basically forced to change what their currency was valued at, because they were artificially shrinking value of the yen, right, to keep it so that it wasn't actually, so it was more on their side for exporting things. The US basically said, you're not doing that anymore. So raise the value of the yen, and it did, and it hurt a lot of those export industries. A lot of those factories that existed stopped existing because the shipments kind of dropped off when combined in tandem with the the lawsuit that happened and the inability to ship instruments off to the US because of those trademarks. So, that was kind of not so much the end of Japanese as like, you cheap but good value stuff. It more so cemented their niche as high quality, but, still reasonable priced, which is why, for example, in the 80s, Ibanez with the RG series, the RG 550 was a killer instrument that sold in copious quantities because it was well made. It was cheaper than a Jackson Soloist, Dinky, I should say. Soloist is the neck fruit. Cheaper than a Jackson Dinky, but made to a very, very similar level, and it was like a third the price. So they kept making instruments from that point, and they'd kind of like mastered being good luthiers. Even with like their acoustics and that, they got quite good at it. So we sell a lot of secondhand acoustics from Japan here, old Morrises and similar type units that are actually really, really well done. Some of these factories and companies are still around. For example, Tokai still makes stuff. They used to be here in Australia up until a couple of years ago when the company was sold. And when they were sold, they withdrew their distributorship here and also got rid of all of the Chinese-made products, which is unfortunate, but, you know, what they chose to do. And obviously Yamaha is still going, and one of the largest, instrument companies in the world that are still kicking on and still making phenomenal stuff. Some of the best guitars you can get out there, regardless of price point. Some of the best keyboards and synths too. They are, stellar company, and I'm not just saying that as a Yamaha dealer and also as an authorized service agent, but that's why I have those things with them. Let's see, my buddy had a 73 Tele Deluxe. It ruled. Some of them did. Some of them were complete dog turds. I've seen several sort of Tele Deluxes of the era where the body weighs an absolute ton and the neck just swings side by side, and thankfully it wasn't before they went to the super, super thick poly on the necks there, but some of them, the finish on the neck was so thick that it basically took like the medium jumbo frets they had on them and turned them into really, really flat ones. Like, it was just built up on the side, and it also meant that it chipped off over time, and it was just absolutely horrible. It was not a good era for Fender. Let's see. I think other non-US dealers had issues with G&L from what I've heard on the internet. Yes. G&L, like a lot of other US companies, focus on the US and a secondary market of Japan. Japan is like the second largest market for musical instruments in the world. It's insane how many they actually sell. Like, you go over there and there's like multi-story music stores that are just filled with things like, one shop that's just filled with acoustics and another one's just filled with like, vintage guitars. It is pretty damn crazy. It's kind of cool though. I'll actually be back over there again in March and April. I'll be there. I'll be there for a couple of weeks, partially on a holiday, partially also to speak to some suppliers over there, because we buy a lot of wholesale used stock from Japan. Be over there checking it out, and I'll probably do some live streams and that while I'm over there, showing people sort of the interesting things in the area and different music stores, and kind of like a couple of tips for how you can find the best value used instruments over there, because there are some places you will pick up things that will absolutely blow your brain at the prices they're at. It's like it's like those classic things that you see of here's like a vintage instrument in a hock shop that's going for like $500 or something. Go to Strato Crazy. Never heard of it. There's a lot of shops over there that kind of don't interest me, because like I've seen it all. Been doing this long enough that none of it kind of impresses me. But what I do like is I like going out into the middle of nowhere and seeing, various bits and pieces that people generally don't kind of see, Stay. Oh my God, my arm. Prime vintage Fender, they bought our heritage. Well, they did, and a lot of that actually came from that economic bubble. So the economic bubble went all the way up until the 90s when it spectacularly crashed. So they were importing things left, right, and center into Japan from the US, and up until that point everyone was swimming in money, things were going well, and they were one of the big sort of reasons why vintage instruments actually started going up in value the way they did in the 90s. They were buying them up for their own personal things, but also for investment purposes. They were buying physical assets and that, and they were wanting to buy things that they couldn't get because obviously they were in the US. And then once that started going up, then all the investors started going on and creating all these faux markets. Oh, these guitars are great. Everyone's going to own them. We've all got to buy them up. And the speculators bought in. And next thing you know, Joe Bonamassa is spinning up the value of every single instrument that he can to keep his portfolio as big as he can. But that's neither here nor there. But yes, Japan is an entirely other universe. It is
wild, but it's kind of cool as well. So as a musician going over there and being able to just like stop into any random bar and hear some cool music. Oh, hey, there's a venue playing some gigs. Awesome. What's playing? I don't know, some weird crust punk band. Cool. Let's go check them out. Cheap drinks, all that kind of stuff. And there are things over there that are just like dime a dozen that we don't get over here. And then you go out into like the Inaka, basically rural buttfuck nowhere, and you get stuff super cheap. For example, last time I was over there, on my travels, I picked up a Hamer FB4, the Nicky 6 one. So that's a Hamer Thunderbird copy base, but with the white stripe pattern on there, same as what Nicky 6 used to use, was sort of like his signature model. I picked that up for $500 Australian, mind you. Got that. Picked up a 66 Fender Super Reverb that had been looked after and all the rest of that for $1,200 Australian. Yep, I brought that back on the plane. Picked up an ESP Chris DeGarmo signature model, the Empire D. So it was an ESP custom shop model. You had to order them, all that kind of stuff. They were never like a regular production model. I picked that one up for $200 in a used goods store in Fukushima, of all places. What else? Obviously, the classic Japanese ones and Grecos and stuff like that for next to nothing. Also picked up a brand new Sennheiser MD421U. MD4212. Picked up that for $120. Amongst them, and the one that like anyone who's a metal fan and anyone who's especially a Metallica fan is gonna hate me for this one. I was out in the middle of nowhere, out past a place called Sendai. Right, Sendai is the biggest city in the northern part of the main island of Japan. Right, I was out there wandering around in a big, massive used goods store, and in amongst there, I saw a guitar, and I was like, "No, this can't be real." Wow, that's a really good condition. And then I saw the price tag. And I was like, really? 80,000 yen? Okay. Checked it out, took a look, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, wow, that is exactly what I thought. And so called over the person, got them to grab it, and it had the flight case to go with it as well. I was like, really? Are you serious? So picked up, got the flight case, got all that kind of stuff, and then it was a case of, let me see if I can do I'll do old-fashioned man thing because I can't be bothered reaching over to my computer and logging it up there. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. There we go. So, let me zoom in. Where's my zoomy stick? There it is. Right. So yeah, that is an ESP MX250 in the flight case with barely a mark on it. I got for $800 Australian. Like legitimately, it was it's insane. Where is it? There we go. That was it, hanging up on the wall. That's the price tag there. So yeah, 82,800, which at that point we got to claim back the consumption tax, so 8% off of that. It worked out to be about $800 Australian. I sold it to a customer of ours before I even left the country for a lot more than that. But even like, for example, if I had more time and a bit more energy in that, I also would have picked up this. So this is, that is a Jackson King V Dave Mustaine model, so KV1 for $700. Those are the kinds of things that you can find out in places like Japan. If you know where you're looking, if you know what you're doing, there we go. That's the Nicky 6 bass there, That thing was cool as hell. If you know what you're doing, if you know where you're looking, then you're able to find things for next to nothing that you just couldn't find in the West, because now a lot of people know what these things are all about. We know what the pricing's like. We can go, all right, cool, I'll buy that and take that away. You know, yeah, there we go. That was the super reverb that I got for, you know, $1,200. So yeah, it's a fun place to visit, especially if you're like me and like going bargain hunting and finding things for cheap. Because I found a lot of stuff for very cheap. Fender Japan made Killer Japan only stuff too. Yes, they did, and I sell a lot of it. I got several, you know, Japanese Fenders here in the shop because, like I said, we import it from Japan, buy the pallet load and sell it over here. Because being in Australia, it is far easier to get here than it is over in the US. And we've also got the Japan-Australia Economic Partnership Agreement, which is JPA, which is a free trade agreement with Japan. It allows us to bring them in and not have to pay the good old-fashioned taxes and stuff on them, which is nice. Right, now we're looking at almost done. But when I'm over there next time, you know, I'll be live streaming and showing people some stuff and seeing what kind of interesting bargains I can find. Because I actually did, I did record the moment that I found that the ESP MX250, because I kind of like lost it. I was absolutely like, I was like, no way, seriously. I had to record my reaction. It was brilliant. Yeah, there is a lot of stuff over there that you can get for, you know, next to nothing. There's also things over there you just can't find in a lot of other locations. So you've got to, so you pick it up because it's interesting. It may not be a bargain, but it's something that you just haven't seen previously. You know, various Fender interesting models, you know, Japanese market Gibsons, if you're into that kind of thing. You know, obviously ESPs and Ibanez's, because in Japan it's a very different kind of very different kind of thing when it comes to the relationship between distributors and manufacturers and the retailers. Over there, retailers tend to be quite large, multiple areas and that, and they sell a lot of a particular brand. So what they'll do is they'll usually go to the brand and go, hey, we want 50 of this, right? We want 50 of those. We want them this color, we want them this model name. I'll do something custom. For example, in my collection, I've got an Ibanez IRG 720, which was an Ishibashi Music Special RG 720, which a 720 is a Japanese-only model. Alderback, quilted maple, flame maple top, came with DiMarzio pickups, Tone Zone Near Norton, pretty common. Maple neck, but it actually had a neck profile that was closer to the Viper neck profile on the John Petrucci model. So it wasn't like the really, really slim, tiny RG shaped one. Actually, if you jump onto the Ibanez wiki thingy fandom or whatever it is, some of my photos are actually up there because, you know, I've picked up so many weird, sort of obscure Japanese Ibanez over the years because I love them. Especially like reverse headstock models. Big fan of those. All right, what was I? All right, so they're polished up. Scratches gone from that. Good. A little bit more there. Just a wee bit more. And then it's on to 1200 grit. And yes, I did rack up well. In fact, that was how I funded the opening of the shop initially, going over there and basically my fiance and I buy up a lot of stuff, bring it back to Australia, then we sell it on. She's into gaming and that, so she does like the Pokemon cards and things like that, picks up stuff there. We bring them back, we sell them, that pays for the holiday, and it also, in the last time I was there, paid for the opening of the shop, which, you know, got me my first shop and paid for the bond, paid for the bits and pieces there, so we could actually, you know, start trading and doing stuff rather than just being a repairer in the back of somebody else's shop. Except maybe I should have stuck at that. Don't know why I had an AirPod in there. Oh, now my ear is all like weird. Not that one. Yeah, so let's turn that off. Oh, my nose. Yep. All right. 1200 grit time. Oh, there I go. Not that one. Where's my... There it is. 1200 grit. So, yeah. course, if anyone's got any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll do what I can to answer it. But yeah, like kind of what was said before, I'm a bit of a walking encyclopedia of gear-related stuff. The joys of this stuff being my special interest and being autistic, I retain a lot of useless crap. I know a lot of stupid stuff and factoids and get really sort of caught up in reading about, you know, the history and the past of things and obscure models, and I'll see an instrument and go, I know what that is, I know what that model is, that's kind of cool, let's check that out. Yeah, that's why when I'm over in somewhere like Japan, I can kind of find those interesting things. I can see instruments and go, that's that. This might be worth that much. Cool. If it's what you do, it's what you know. Yeah, but there are some people out there who know absolutely nothing about their own equipment. Like, there are people out there who you speak to who work in music shops or whatnot, who know nothing of the history or know nothing of the actual sort of products beyond kind of what's on the spec sheet. Even then, they don't really know a huge amount. Yeah, they know a couple of bits and pieces, but nothing major. Just currently out of frame here while I tear up some new good old-fashioned, sandpaper. That's it. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of sandpaper, because I go through God knows how much of it doing these things. Especially 1200 grit here, it is going to take forever. There we go. Stay. Yeah. That's half the reason why I've kind of like, you know, set up the YouTube channel, and I'll do some more with it over the year, is, you know, to spread a bit more of that kind of knowledge on there, to be, you know, a bit of a different kind of voice on these things. So knowing the history, knowing the context of things, knowing why stuff is done, because there's a lot of techs out there who are quite jaded. There are people out there who, you know, they see things only through the perspective of technical perfection. Sometimes, you know, you just got to like look at it and go, yeah, that's pretty cool for what it is. It does what it does. Price point's okay. It's not perfect, but for someone doing what they do, it's fine. There's a lot of techs out there who are obsessed with, you know, old design must be better, must be this. But, you know, today's day and age of digital modelling and all that kind of stuff, I've gone out and gigged with a modeler for, you know, years now. All of my amps were sold a long time ago. But even like practice amps these days, a good quality, you know, amp for the price point depends on the person, depends on what they're after. For example, you know, I quite like the Vox AC10. I think they're a great amp. They sound phenomenal. For what they do, they're excellent. I don't mind the reverb on it either, but if you're buying it for using the reverb only, well, you know, it's not ideal for that. You're going to buy it because you want to crank up the sound of like an AC style amp and push it hard and get that kind of, you know, grind from it. Oh, itchy, itchy, itchy. Oh. And they aren't successful. I don't know whether you're talking about the techs or whether we're talking about the people who work in music shops, but either way, it is both kind of there. Oh man, the thing I hate about doing refrets is all the nickel dust gets right in the nose. Oh my god, yeah. Oh, itchy. It's awful. Oh god, it's terrible. Okay, let us polish up some frets. Eyeballs. Those that know very little don't stay long. Yeah, unfortunately there's those that know very little, but they say it so loud. So when they say it as loud as they do, you end up with, you know, the kind of people who spread stupid shit on the internet. There's a lot of people who spread a lot of stupid shit on the internet, unfortunately. You know, so as they say, so some people like to say opinions like assholes. Everyone has one. But I tend to think of it more like opinions are like houses. Some people's just worth more than others. And then others, well, you know, I'm not allowed to have them. But that's a whole other thing for the future. There we go. Oh, itchy. Yeah, for example, with the shop and what I do here is kind of different. Aspen Pittman knows a lot. He knows a hell of a lot. But when you got guys like Gerald Weber and some of the things he puts out there and some of the others, it's not ideal. You know, you get guys out there who do like the Bill M mods and that as well, and yeah. Travis McCartney. Hey, yes. Thank you for coming along to my TED Talk here. I'm just going to rant continuously because that's what I do. Yeah. So far, we've gone through a brief history of Japanese guitars, and now we're on to the realities of doing YouTube and being online and having an opinion about things. You know, half the reason why I'm doing this is to try and sort of bring in more people here into the shop for not only repair work, but also to buy things, because unlike a lot of other shops out there, I choose not to deal in Fender or Gibson or any of those kinds of companies because, first of all, how they treat their dealers, second of all, how they treat their customers, and third of all, I don't think their products are good. That's it. I see way too many Gibsons coming in that are junk from factory, not worth it. And now, the last 5 years have seen a wonderful increase in Fenders, brand new ones across their whole portfolio of brands coming in that are just crap. Frets that are out of whack, necks that are misaligned, that seems to be a bit of a common one, bridges in the wrong places, incorrect neck angles, just overall fit and finish that's just horrid. That Stratcase website has some sweet Fenders. I couldn't even afford some. Yeah. You know what? I've played enough vintage instruments to know that they don't interest me. I mean, they're kind of cool, but yeah, guitar's a guitar. Hand me anything, whatever, I'll do it. You know, I've played on enough recordings. I've done enough gigging. I've done enough tours. You know, I don't care what it is. I actually have some really, really weird tastes in instruments. There's ones out there that most people wouldn't even sort of consider, but they work well for me. There are very few new instruments that I'd buy. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of new instruments I would buy. I just don't buy new instruments. I always buy mine second hand because I don't like scratching them. I don't want to mess them up. I don't do that. Give me something that's already had a bit of use, a couple of marks on that. Also means to save money. But yeah, I like to save money and I like to have something that's already got a bit of character to it. Vintage stuff, nah, not my bag. About the only vintage stuff is maybe some vintage acoustics that are kind of cool. But with a lot of the new stuff, honestly, it's alternative brands I like. I like interesting things. The last new instruments I bought them because I'm a dealer and I got a really, really good price on them, was actually a pair of Vox Bobcats. I got two of them, both in black. One of them is the black one with the white pickups and white binding and that with the standard bridge, and the second one is the stealth black one with the P90s that's all black with the Bigsby, black binding, black Bigsby, black hardware, black pickups, black everything. And I liked them because they were like the semi-hollow 335 type vibe, made in Korea, really, really good, super comfy, and they look cool. So I picked up two of those because they were neat and I wanted something semi-hollow again in my collection because sold off most of my old ones. I've had a couple of vintage Fenders, but sold them. Too expensive for me to beat on. Yeah. You know, I mean, we live in this wonderful world where if we can measure it, we can replicate it. The pickups, there's nothing spectacular about them. We can recreate them. I mean, there was so much variation between them anyway at factory. Didn't really matter that much. The hardware, we're better at metallurgy nowadays, so we can make better quality bridges and better quality hardware. The woods, I mean, a lot of the woods are gone now because they're kind of done pillaging the environment and, you know, overthrowing, you know, democracies down in Latin America. So there's less of it around. But even then, a lot of the woods that we use and we consider to be tone woods now either were tone woods just because that's what was always said they were, and it was a throwback to the days of acoustic instruments where it made a far bigger impact on the overall tonality of the instrument, or someone like Leo who turned around and said, what wood is around that looks kind of nice and isn't too heavy? Oh, there we go, there's some furniture wood. And so started using alder and ash. You know, alder and ash were like for furniture. And generally use them for guitars. And then, of course, all the budget companies like Dan Electro and all of those, and Valco that were making them, were using stuff like poplar and other bits and pieces, just whatever woods was around to use. That's why I like that we're in this wonderful renaissance of guitar building where people are using different woods. Use whatever. Use what looks cool. It's going to be under a piece of lacquer as long as it's lightweight. Swings and roundabouts. Fender Highway 1 Strats. They were good. that's what's kind of sad, is that Fender from like the 90s through about 2010, 2015 were really solid. They were like, to me, they were never like, oh my god, but they were good. They made good stuff. New owners, new things, more private equity money in companies, and then they tried to do the going public thing in like 2008 and had to pull out of that. And once they enacted their plan to basically take on board all of the international subsidiaries, so they took over Fender Australia, they took over Fender Japan, the quality dipped. It did. Even the Japanese stuff now is not as good as it used to be. The Japanese stuff has dropped in quality because they're like, well, we want to inflate the balance sheet. We want to make the brand, a lifestyle brand and make money that way because we don't want some of the money. We want all of the money. That's why the Fender shop in Shibuya in Japan, that's there now because, it's lifestyle and we want to do that. The Fender Japan stuff that used to be so good, like, the ST series, the TE series, all of that. The modern things in the last, 3 or 4 years, I've seen them and I'm just like, they're not bad, but they're not what they used to be. I imported a 1983 MIJ Strat. It's been well played and it's going to need a refret soon, but I enjoy the feel of it. It has a bit of mojo from all the use and, dare I say, abuse. Yes, that is correct. An instrument that has been played has a story, not a case queen. There's a reason why you see all the custom shop instruments, right? Heavy Relic and this and that and the other. And why they're the ones people were buying and playing and why those guitars got played. Why? Partially because probably it's all the instruments that person had, so they played the crap out of them. But also, it was a good instrument. It was a good guitar that played hella well. So, they kept playing it and playing it and playing it and beat it up and finish wore through it because Nitro sucks. It is such a bad finish for that kind of thing. It just melts off because it never fully catalyzes. But, those were the good guitars. That's why the ones that you see that have been played that are a bit beaten up, they're the ones that tend to be the nicer ones. They're the ones that you actually want to pick up and play. They're the ones that inspire music. I have some PV stuff from the late 80s, early 90s, killer stuff that was cheap pre-pandemic. Every Strat guy should own a Falcon or Generation for tellies, US made, of credible flame stuff. Yes, PV stuff is criminally underpriced. Hartley, despite his being an insane madman, did some wonderful stuff with the guitar side of things. Obviously, the Wolfgangs are always worth big money now. I remember about 10 years ago, you could pick them up for like $1,000. Nobody wanted them. And they were great. They were excellent instruments. But those Falcons and the other ones, the Tele versions as well, hell, you could still pick them up here in Australia now for like $500-600. And they're excellent. They are killer. Some people just want the name on the headstock. Okay. Some people are more concerned about how it plays and how it sounds. They're the guys that pick them up and go, yeah, that's the one. And then John Mayer will pick one up one day and be on stage and suddenly the value will shoot up 10,000%. Always the way it goes. It's like these tools were always at your disposal and now you want to start using them? Why didn't you want to use them before? It's Special 130. Man, that's some big, big amps. Oh. PV guitar cases, yeah. I had a PV Forum Plus bass for a while. Not as nice as the older basses, but also not 20 pounds. Yeah, the Forum series are actually pretty good. The 5 strings were solid. I did some recording with one once years ago. Oh, itchy. But yeah, no, they were pretty well made. I believe PV got back into guitar making again or something, or I don't know. They're kind of underrepresented here in Australia, which is unfortunate. But yeah, like the Wolfgang type instrument for me was a brilliant guitar. I loved them. Polishing. There's a lot of interesting alternative brands that are great, and then there are ones out there that people want to buy it because of XYZ player used them, or I don't know, whatever. Like now, all the aluminum neck stuff's kind of coming in vogue with all the Doom guys and that. And I remember, 15 years ago, the old aluminum neck stuff like the Kramers, now you can still get them in Australia for like $1,000 because nobody wanted them because they were so heavy. Making the Wolf style guitar in Croatia. Huh. Croatia. No, the Czech Republic is where what's he makes theirs. Spectre. Croatia. Huh. Wonder what maybe they've opened up a factory or something there, or they've taken over an old Eastern Bloc one. Because I know that there was a Soviet era factory that also predated as well, I believe, in Bulgaria, and that's one of the brands that we stock for classical guitars, which is called Cremona, and they make the guitars over there in Bulgaria in the same factory, and they made them in the 60s and that in the Soviet era too. What time is it over on your guys' side of the world, wherever you happen to be? Sound off in the comments. Where are you and what time is it? And what's the weather like there? Because it's a bit warm here in Sydney. Yeah, it's not too bad, but it's a bit warm. This has kind of like been one of the weirdest summers. They say, yep, it's going to be crazy wet and crazy hot, and it's been relatively mild. Just goes to show how bad climate change has gotten that you can't even predict things with anything because the whole system is up on its derriere. Dust in the throat. That's awful. 5:09 p.m. in Oregon. Nice. So this is actually not a bad time to start streaming that of a week. I might have to start doing this regularly on Tuesdays because now the shop's closed on such day, I can do whatever. People can watch me on their way home. Actually, probably not, because if you're in the US, you're probably driving then. You guys don't have public transport in most areas. Maybe put the sweet dulcet tones of my voice on over the car audio. Huntsville, Alabama. Stormy night indeed. See, you guys do storms in a whole other kind of way, man. It's like, yep, tornado, twister, okay, cool. Biblical flooding, insane levels of hail. Australia, we kind of get like, we get some cool storms, but man, you guys take everything to the extremes. Charleston, South Carolina, 48 Fahrenheit, aka 8C at 8:10 p.m. Yeah, right. Cool, so this actually might be a good time to stream then on Tuesdays. I might actually start doing this then as a regular thing. Do my Tuesday morning, afternoon, stream of conscious type thing and fixing stuff. Because not only do I do guitar things here, I also do synths and amps and pro audio. I'm sure a lot of you guys come over from Brad's channel as well because he's been doing this a lot longer than I have. And he's him and I both do a range of things. He does some stuff I don't. I do things that he doesn't. So, for example, I do a lot of the like vintage synths and analog stuff and those kinds of things. He does a lot more in-depth guitar repair work than I do. Also does kind of more. He'll take on jobs I won't. He's an absolute mad lad, that gentleman. He will take on jobs that I will look at and go, no thanks. Just because it interests him, which is, I admire him for that. I don't have the patience, though. Nor do I have the allocated bandwidth to be able to do so, because every job I do, I have to make a lot of money on in order to keep the doors open, because things are a very different world to how I started the shop years ago. Oh, man. Yeah, I got to make my way over to the US one day. I'll get there at some point. Do like catch-up type thing with various people that I know over in the area and sort of see what it's all about. I definitely want to go and try some some of the classic US foods out in different regions, because you guys are like crazy in that regards. You can cross state lines and be like in basically another country. You can go like 2 towns over, and they're speaking almost another dialect of English. Here in Australia, you go from Sydney up to Sydney down to Melbourne, and what do you get? Hook turns and trams. That's it. We're all pretty well the same. We're pretty well the same across the country, especially now that everything is even further monopolised and duopolised by companies, so you don't get a lot of the local flavour that you used to 20, 30 years ago. Oh, man. Oh. My kingdom for an apprentice again, so I can hand off this kind of work. Things like this, easy to do, but it just takes so much time. Oh, my phone's going crazy. Why is my phone going crazy? Okay. Junk. What's coming today? Yeah. Cool. Getting shipments today. Excellent. Polishing. Like, people don't realize how long this takes. Like, just takes forever. And unfortunately, you can't really mechanize this process either. You could theoretically, but the heat generated from doing it would be detrimental, first of all. Second of all, you might overshoot the mark. So, yeah. I know in the factories and stuff like that, they've got machines that do it, but man, I don't have space for that. It's just little old me in my workshop here, filled to the gills with random junk. Oh, God. Oh, God. Ugh, awful. Oh, God. I've done a couple rough on the hands. Yes, it is. And normally I wear some good quality nitrile gloves, but I can't find my damn ones. I've apparently run out, so I have to get some more. Yeah, the worst part of dealing with this is the naphtha. Naphtha and ISO basically makes your hand like that, like real dry and awful. Just terrible stuff. Dermatitis is a bitch, and on my forearms too. I think a lot of that comes from stress. I'm a naturally stressful person. I stress myself out. Ay. Do. What else have I got in the queue at the moment? So I already did that. That was a G&L that's done. That one's a Fender Jazz Bass. Did those yesterday. So that was a pair of nuts that needed making. That's a random setup. That's also a setup. That is a Rickenbacker that needs a pickup rewind, which I got the pickup out and that's unwound. I just got to actually sit down and wind it. I'm going to do like 4 pickup rewinds. Got some old pickups from a Japanese Alembic copy that has died, so I got to do that. Well, we've got an ant pile. We've got a PV Bandit that's come back because I repaired it, but the problem returned immediately, so that one's on me to fix. I have a Yamaha HS5. I've got to replace the gain pot on it. KRK VXT6 that's doing some real horrid noises. Moa GE300 that is not happy. That one's going to be an interesting one. Couple of pedals. What is it? DD3 long chip that's passing clean signal but not affected signal. Crybaby Wah that's a bit dirty. EHX Pog that's winging out and not switching correctly. What else is there? RC booster that needs a new switch. Sequential Profit Rev 2 that needs a new power supply. And yes, I rewind pickups. However, I only do it for obscure pickups that can't be bought off shelf. My time and my labor is too much to be able to do pickup rewinds. There's a bunch of guys out there who do them for next to nothing. They can do it. But for example, in this case, it's a 70s Rickenbacker. Not exactly the kind of thing you just get a pickup easily here in Australia. And the pickups for the Alembic copy from Japan, they're potted and you can't just buy them. So I have to basically boil them until the potting compound comes loose, remove it, and then rewind it. So yeah, as the thing says, as kind of one of the things we say is Dr. Gear is your one-stop shop for tone. We do repairs, we do maintenance, we do customs, we do mods. Just started down the road of getting some ideas for an amp build I might want to do because, interesting stuff interests me. We do tuition as well in the music school side of things. I sell a lot of parts. Consignment sales, just a mixture of stuff. There's not much I don't do. I do the occasional repairs as well to like brass and woodwind, minor stuff mainly. Do some violin repairs from time to time, mainly like pegs and stuff like that. Resetting sound posts. I did an oud. Repaired an oud. Actually had to inlace a new pearl on the edge of the binding and get rid of a hump in the fingerboard because it was causing a buzz. So did that. What else? Repair some microphones, repair Pro Audio, synthesizers. I do the service work for brands like Yamaha, Line 6, Korg, Vox, the Harman group of companies, so JBL and some others. Did Mackie up until recently, but Mackie can go burn in a fire. Except now they're owned by Rode, so hopefully that means some good stuff for them. What else do I do? Obviously guitar repairs, so fret dressers, refrets, and new nuts and that stuff. Broken headstocks and bits and pieces. I don't do finish work. I outsource that because I don't have space or time to do it, nor do I have the patience. Yeah. If you got stuff that's busted, I'm going to fix it. I've even got some old multi-track recorders. A guy is absolutely adamant on keeping them going because they're ones that he knows and he has a workflow for, and they died. Actually, the power supply died and took out the hard drives in them. So, new power supply, but I've got to replace the hard drive, so I'm replacing them with a, SDI to IDE adapter with some SD cards because they're just old, IDE 3.5-inch drives. So replace those, put that in there. Some old samplers and stuff. Got an old Ensoniq EPS16 that I got to finish up as well. I got to trace down a short in the 15-volt positive rail because that's taking out all the audio side of things. The digital side's working good, which is excellent because that's the hardest one to shoot. The audio side ain't going well. And then I've got stock I've got to finish prepping for sale as well, including Roland JD800 that I'm redoing the key bed on because red glue of death happens to them all. Korg Lambda, which was for sale, but I noticed there was some issues with it, so the tremolo oscillator failed, and now the string 2 section is failing, so I think that's going to have a full recap, which is unfortunate because there are hundreds of caps in these bastards. Divide down technology is a pain in the butt. What else is there? Old Crewmar Multiman, the first version from like 1974. Ancient Italian string synth. It's kind of cool. Sounds good though. What else is there? God, itchy. Finished up a Mesa Express 525, open diodes in the low voltage circuit. That was easy enough to deal with. Well, when I say easy, I mean easy for a Mesa. Didn't have to troubleshoot 5 million things. Did a recap on that while I was there too, which is good because the 10 microfarad ones on the B plus rail were just starting to leak. And had that have happened later on, that would have been a nightmare because that leak would have gone right down into the traces. And they are little itty-bitty tiny traces the size of a human hair almost. Because Mesa don't like designing stuff properly. Man, I'm starting to get hungry. Almost lunchtime. Now finish polishing up this, make the frets nice and shiny. Then I might grab some lunch. So I'll be here for another half hour at least. Oh, man. Oh. Still going.
Oh god. Get worse finger cramps doing this. Doopy-doopy-doo. Oh god. Every time I do a fret dress, I always end up looking like I'm a chimney sweep because I keep scratching my nose and it's got all the nickel dust on there. So I end up like all these like dark stains across my face. Yep. Alright, next one. Oh god. I took a delay pedal apart to see if I could change out an LED. Now the other LED and the pedal stopped working. Ah, what delay pedal is it? Because some of them will just be connected pretty well directly to the framework, directly to the switch, and it just connects it to ground in order to provide current to the LED. However, other ones, if they're more complex, if it's like a buffered bypass system or similar, Horizon devices. Yeah, well, Horizon devices basically is just MXR. That's all it is. So yeah, I dare hazard to guess that might have a buffered bypass or relay bypass in there, so it's going to be a little bit more complex. Yeah, so something like that, you're going to have to obviously change out the LED and that, but it's also could be connected to a voltage rail or something, and if there's a short or it's in backwards or God only knows what, could cause hassles for the rest of the pedal. I have not worked on one previously, so I can't say for certain. But, you know, undoubtedly one will cross my bench at some point. What the? Nah, thought that was my delivery. Waiting on a stack of strings because I was supposed to have gotten strings before Christmas. I didn't get any. So I basically had the Christmas period with all of the most common string gauges, 10 to 46, 12 to 53 in the acoustics and that. I had none. So for the last like 4 days, customers are walking in going, can I have guitar strings? Yeah, which one's he after? 10 to 46. See me in a couple of days. So that was frustrating to say the least. Yeah, it's like walking in, it's like that classic old Aussie song, The Pub with No Beer. Except this was a guitar shop with no strings. Certainly not ideal. I just realised that's actually quite a dark setting. I might change that a wee bit. No, go there. Function. Yes, let's go exposure comp. Let us expand that a wee bit. Well, a bit far. That's better. That should hopefully make it a little bit brighter. Just realised how dark it was. But when you've got a black mat behind it, and then the white one up front, you have the absolute worst case scenario for a digital device that's trying to automatically set its exposure, because it's like, oh great, I've got 1 and 255, both on the same thing. Yeah, unfortunately my overhead cam is only a 8-bit. Yeah. Go away. Yeah. Just a Canon XA50, which does the job for overhead stuff. It actually focuses quite quickly, which is nice. So if I do need to zoom in stuff, I can. But you know, stuff like this is torture for doing photography or videography or anything like that, because unless you have something that has 20 stops of dynamic range, it's going to struggle to expose it correctly. So you either have to clip out the blacks or clip out the whites. In this instance, we've almost gotten to the point of clipping out the whites. There's a little bit of clipping you can see here along the fret line there, but not too important. I'm sure most people aren't even necessarily watching, they're just listening to my voice. Oh my god. Oh god. Whew. Itch your nose. Oh, the home stretch, the last couple. Thank God.
have the worst arm cramp. Oh, it's terrible.
Almost there. Come on.
Come on. Oh, God. Whew. Polishing, polishing, polishing. The worst part about sort of like being in business here in Sydney is that there's not many of us left. So unlike in the US where you got like 500,000 techs everywhere and covering all sorts of different realms and different fields and different specialists, we don't have that here in Sydney. We don't have like a bunch of amp techs anymore. It's just there's a couple of us. We don't have as many luthiers anymore. There's just a couple of us. Comes with the joys of a lot of the people aging out and there not being anyone to take up the mantle. Polishing, polishing, polishing. Have I tried using a rotary tool for polishing frets, or is that not a real advantage? So, what we're doing here is not even so much polishing. This is just getting rid of the scratches, right? We went 220 leveled, 320 leveled to get it down to the fine point to get rid of some of those 220 scratches. Then 600 over the top to get rid of the scratches from the 320, and now 1200 to get rid of those scratches. Now we're at the point where we actually will pull out the rotary tool because time for the Dremel. A Dremel, this, with a polishing wheel, that will get us up to our final polish. I'm not going to go through micromesh and do 5 million of those things over and over and over and over when I can use this, because that's how they do it at factory. They use a buffing wheel to do the final fit and finish. But what I do need to do is I need to wash my hands, so I'm going to step out of frame over here, wash my hands and rinse my face off because I've got dust all over it and it's making my everything itchy. Oh, terrible. Ugh. Ugh. Terrible. Ugh. Where is the thingy? There it is. Ugh. That was terrible. Oh yeah, there we go. Only the finest of noises here on this stream. Okay, so we use that and good old quality polish, so just a metal polish. I use this one, it's just a regular cleaning polish, does the jobby. Then I can go over it with a fine one if I need to, but this usually kind of does the jobby. It's about to get loud. Now I want the polishing guard, because even though I've got masking tape on the board covering the frets, and I want to try and minimize gumming up my polishing wheel. I'll try and protect it somewhat. That's the size there. Alright. Screws on that. And let's warm this wheel up. Let us plug it in first. It's been a long day thus far. Into that, on like so. Oh. Yeah, awful. Okay, cool. I need this. So I like to warm it up on a little bit of metal like this, also clear off any of the excess polishing compound. This works quite well because the needle nose pliers like these have like a little bit of serration type thing in the center, so I can use that to clear off the gunk on there. I can also use the tip as well if I need to scrape anything off that happens to be there. And Steve here. Oh man, oh, that was awful. And I'm gonna sneeze again. Oh. Like my biological father will sneeze 10 times in a row. I can never do it just once or twice. It's got to be multiple times. Oh man. All right, we're good. We're good. Let's try that now. Yeah. Yeah, let's just confirm everything's looking the way it needs to. Thank you much, Lee. Ugh, that was looking. Let's do the next one. All right. Okay. Yep. Nice. Oh, someone's bringing in a delivery. Howdy. Thank you. Thank you. Cheers. Yeah. Cool. All right. All right. String delivery. Much better. It's always funny when the one of the companies that you deal with sends out the deliveries in empty like alcohol boxes. I don't know whether they just go through a lot of it, or maybe there's a second business located in there as well, and they get the boxes from there. But today's shipment of strings turned up in a VB carton. Love it. Those old VB commercials are phenomenal. Given how annoying this sound is probably going to be, I'm going to mute for a moment just while I get this done, because that's probably going to drive you guys insane. So back in a moment. There we go, unmuted. Figured y'all didn't want to hear that absolute terrible sound because it was bad enough in my ears. Ugh. All right. Excellent. So that should now be nice and shiny, ready to go. The old VB commercials are neat. That they are. Classic theme tune. At least here the alcohol boxes tend to be more stout than regular cardboard boxes the same size. Yeah, I mean, you'll get that with basically anything shifting that much weight because obviously liquids are dense as hell. So you put them inside of a box, you're going to need to be able to carry a fair amount of weight. Sweet. Nice. All right. Looking good. Excellent. Ay. That can go there, that can go there, that can go there, as can this one, and that one, and that one, those ones as well, and this one, and that one, and that. That is how much sandpaper I went through just to get rid of those scratches and to polish it up to 1200. It's a hell of a lot. And that's not even including all the ones, obviously, that were there for, doing the leveling and all that kind of jazz. All right. Now, let us take off this tape. Big old chunky amount of it. Come on. Alright. Come hither. Alright. Come on. Come on, you bastard. Now, if this were a vintage instrument or one that had like a lacquer finish or something, I'd be using different finish. Gotta jump off for a few to get my kids in bed. Man, I'm jealous of your kids. I want to go to bed. It's only like 1:45 here, but I'm tired. I'll catch you later. In the meantime, get this damn tape off. Get the fretboard cleaned, and we should be able to just do the setup. Once we're done setup, and that's all complete, I'm going to grab me some lunch, because it's about that time of day. Oh, go for a wander down to the Aldi and go pick up some lunch supplies for today and tomorrow, because I've got one of the what they call the Aldi corner shop down the road from here. It's kind of like a little, not so much a micro Aldi, but just an Aldi that's kind of small. But it has the important stuff, and it's got some like lunch things in there that are quite cheap. Contrary to what you might think, those of us who own music shops, unless you're one of the big guys and turning over like, $100,000 guitars or something, we don't make a huge amount of money. We all live pretty modest lifestyles. The only thing is we get to play with a bunch of interesting toys. Almost done. Come on. Damn thing. Oh, itchy. Itchy. Right. Now, notice how I didn't use any steel wool whatsoever, because that stuff is cancer. There's terrible, terrible things. Some of you might have ended up coming and seeing me from the video that I did with the classic, clickbaity thumbnail pointing to steel wool and saying no, because it sucks. It is terrible, terrible stuff. Shouldn't be using it for guitar-related purposes at all. There are so many other better options for doing it. Dremels, of course. Buffing, nail buffing things like I showed in the little Duva. Some people don't quite understand that. Need cloth. That's right, I washed it yesterday. Blue cloth. Blue cloth, blue cloth, blue cloth. What do you want? Yep. 1 second, I'm just going to put everyone on mute. Someone calling up about repairs for a Yamaha product that is well past its warranty, but we might still be able to get parts. It all depends. Oh, itchy nose. All right. Cleared off the board with some naphtha, naphthalene, whatever you want to call it. Lighter fluid, that stuff. Big old bottle of it. Ooh, itchy nose. All right, so I got that, and I need a wee bit of oil. Now, a lot of people out there will use lemon oil for cleaning fretboard, well, for oiling up fretboards. Lemon oil, if you look at the MSDS, Material Safety Data Sheet, it's what we call them here in Australia, you can actually see kind of what the ingredients are in it. It's kind of like ingredients list on the side of food on when you go buy your food and the likes. 99% of it is nothing more than mineral oil. That's all it is. All right. Mineral oil is also used for something else. It's also used for cutting boards. So if we look right here, might be able to see it. There we go, like that. No, other side, there we go. That one, there we go. That's actually what I use for doing my fretboards. It's just good old-fashioned cutting board oil from IKEA. I like this one because it's thick, it's goopy. It's not like thin and watery. A bottle like that cost me like $12, and I've been using this bottle now for the last 4 years. It is still kicking on. Wood is hygrophilic. It is not oleophilic, so it is not trying to pull in oil. The oil is there to provide a lusterful sheen and a very, very slight protection barrier on the surface. Not a huge amount though. It's not like a penetrating oil like a tung oil or Danish oil or Swedish oil or whatever. All it does is just sits on the surface to kind of make the wood look a bit nicer. So this wood actually looks like it's in half decent condition, which is good. So just a wee little bit of oil on the rag, spread it over, and that'll help sort of make it look a little bit clearer, a little bit nicer. Don't need a huge amount, just like the smallest amount. Because it's thick as well, it's nice because it doesn't like want to fall off the edge of the board. You can actually sort of like just spread it on without having to worry too much about staining your countertops or your guitar finish or whatever else. And all I've done is put a couple of drops on the board. You can see there already. That's where we've got the oil. That's where we don't. And all I did was a couple of drops on the board, just on the rag, I should say, backwards and forwards. And now we got ourselves some good old-fashioned oiled up board. Wipe off any excess that might be there. And that looks like $1,000,000. Which is good, because I'm not charging that much. Really good value for money, I am. Nah, a job like this, typical fret dress and similar, coming in at about sort of $300 for us to do here at the shop. It's not a cheap job, but that's because it doesn't take a short length of time. It does take us a fair bit. That was this case, wasn't it? Yes, that one there. So, customer has, buddy left his air tag inside the case, and it keeps going off. Doesn't shut up. Got air tags as well in mine, but still. Okie dokie. Let's get rid of these first. Less pointy stuff there is on the counter. The bench, less likely is anything to accidentally injure a customer's instrument. Because I don't care about mine, but customer instruments I don't want damaged. Not in the slightest. No, I want to see that one. There we go, cool. Scratch nose. This can go over here, out of the way. As can this. And that one too. Sweet. Okay. Over on its side. As with any good quality Fender style or through body type instrument, I put all the strings through because I don't want to have to keep flipping this thing over and over and over again like a steak. Do it on one side, and then we can flip it over and string them up from there. Makes process oh so much easier. Why is my phone bipping at me? There better be money going to me, because I need money. Give me money. There we go. Good old elixirs. Certainly my preference when it comes to strings. It'd be nice if they made a few more gauges, but they make the common ones, which is good. You know, if they made something like a like a 12 to 60 or something, like something on the heavier side for kind of like us metal players, that'd be good. All right. Because I do have I got a baritone, an old Ibanez Mike Mashock signature that is strung up with 12 to 68s, the Elixir ones, because baritone strings are expensive. I don't want to have to replace them all the time. Throw those on there, and it's tuned to like a drop A. That thing is heavy. Not just in tone, but the guitar too. Solid mahogany. Big, chunky neck, which is nice. The only thing I don't like about it though, which is a real pain, is the volute. It's got a really, really weird, oversized, very right-angled kind of volute, which is kind of unpleasant, but, you know, it is what it is. That goes there. In through, like so. And then we go there. And now, we start tuning up. I'll go a bit wider though. There we go. Excellent. Alright. Tug, tug, tug. Make sure it's there. Wrap around. Where's my cutters? I just had them before. What did I do with my cutters? There they are. Aha. That there. And across like so. In, over, around. Come on. In, over, around, I said. Thank you. Cool. And then we grab that one there and we start going for gold. Sweet. Next one.
Alright. Give them a little bit of a jiggle as we get them up and in place, because that helps us make sure that the ball is actually seated inside the block. A lot of times people will restring guitar. I've done it myself too. And when you do it, what happens is that the ball doesn't sit against the block, so you're tuning up, and then it goes bang, and it goes all flat and floppy, because suddenly the string has like caught on the edge of the block. It's not sitting right in there. A little stretch as we do. 1, 2, up to there, and around, and a little bit there, like so. Stretch. Jiggle. Up to there. Same deal. Up and around. And up to about there. Just want to make sure there's enough winding around each string so that it doesn't end up slipping out. That one had a little bit too much on there, so I'm going to trim that just a wee bit. In there, and then around, and like that. Make sure we're good there. We're good. Cool. Okay, out there. Wrap around again. And to there, like so. Okay, in like so, and then around like that, down there, a little bit of tension, and then wind. Alright. There, lucky last. Down to the hole, around, and around. There we go. Okay. Excellent. All right. I can slide down that way. Get it in frame a bit better. Stretch. Cool. Alright. So the tuner that I'm using for this is, of course, the quintessential Peterson Strobo Tune Plus. Strobo Plus HD, I should say. Strobe tuners, I'm just used to working with them. They work well for me. I like to make sure that I'm in as best condition as I can be for those things. Yeah, I don't need a machine to tell me that I'm in tune or not. I just need to see if I'm in tune myself. Cool. Alright. Cool. Excellent. All right. Now we're up to tension. From there, we can now measure. We'll make sure that we've got, just the right amount of relief in the neck, and all of that. Okay, there. All right. Right tension. Long scope guitar. Cool. All right. So we've got a lot of relief in that neck. I'll straighten it back down. 4 mil. Time for 4 mil. Ah, itchy. 4 mil.
we go. Move that out of the way, move that out of the way. Cool. All right. Let's check that now. It's better. Needs a little bit further in. Just a wee bit. Of course, as we're straightening the neck out as well, it is causing the pitch to go up too, because the neck is obviously straightening, therefore extending the strings. Pulling on the strings is going to give you higher pitch. Cool. All right. That's better. Much better. Cool. Let's see how these slots are now over the first fret. Very high. Very, very high. Because we've had to knock down a bunch of material from the frets, we've ended up with high slots. So high slots means I have to cut them down. All right. Grab tools. Yeah. All right. Files. Check. All right. Yep. Come here, though. Yep. Okie dokie. That one. That one. Yep. And then those two. Cool. Excellent. All right. Alright. So I'm going to take a lot off of these slots. Like a lot. A lot. That's a lot. Alright, let's carve up some cardboard to stick under there. There we go. There's those. Cool. Excellent. All right. This one here. Out of the way. That's all. Further. Man, there's a lot that's gonna come down on this. Like a lot. Bloody hell. Almost there. Almost. Because if we have the nut slots too high, what ends up happening is when you go to actually fret, your note down on your first fret, what you end up with is the string being stretched way more. So you end up with really, really bad intonation. But also it knocks out the balance of like your setup, because then suddenly instead of it like being like on an angle kind of like that, and now that's up higher, which makes this appear like a little bit more out of whack. So down here, this section of the neck ends up less comfy. Man, God, I really gotta take even more. Seriously? How much do I have to take off of this damn thing? Huge. Again. That's better. Oh, big stretches I can't do anymore. Cool. All right. Next note. Okay. Hush you. All right. Use a little bit of graphite as well to see where I'm going with this one. Let's see where the actual ramp off is going on this. I'll make sure that they've got a little bit of ramp off towards the back of the actual slot. So if there's a little bit of ramp off at the back, it means that there's some contact area on the front, and it's not like catching on like a hard ledge. Ages to go. There's going to be another one of those where we have a lot that we have to take off the slot. This one's going to take forever. A bit more. Wee bit more. Almost. Almost there. Ah, so close. There we go. Sweet. All those little teeny tiny, like fractions of a millimeter, make all the difference to playability. And this is the kind of stuff that separates like a $1,000 guitar from like a $5,000 guitar in a lot of cases. Not all cases though. Just take a look at anything Gibson does. When you get a good quality instrument that's had a good bit of handiwork done to it, then you end up with something that's going to actually play way better. You can do this to instruments that aren't overly expensive either. There we go. Got the pedal working. Secondary board pins and sockets just weren't fully seated. Yep. But the LED is above my pay grade. The traces are under the input jacks. I mean, in that case, the only way you can really do it then is you actually have to remove the input jacks and then put it in. Unless you're like going from the top side of the board, which you kind of can, but you really got to know what you're doing on that. So yeah, it sounds like one of those jobs where you have to sort of like switch the entire, pull those sockets out and then put a new, a new LED. Not the simplest of tasks, unfortunately. I had a
what's here, Mesa Express 525 I worked on this week, and the diodes for the low voltage supply were actually underneath the header that connected like the mains, the transformer and the board. So it was like under that. Trying to actually get to that meant that I had to either remove the header entirely or finagle around from the underside of the board to get those parts out. I went with the finagling option. It was far simpler. Trying to remove that header. Some people said you can remove it with just a little bit of a little bit of ISO and a bit of a tug. I couldn't do it. This one just did not want to play. That is very low. That's how we're looking on that. Huh? A little bit more there. All right. This one here. Nah. And keep going. A little bit more. Almost. Come on, keep going. Almost there. Just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. Just a tapper. Tapper. Now you accidentally go too far and you got to redo the nut from scratch. I have done that on a few occasions. Yeah. I have no idea who you are. Go away. One second.
Okay, joys of dealing with running a music school as well. Cool. Let us keep progressing. Most exciting thing in the world, cut and fret slots. Take a little bit off, go back again. Take another bit off, go back again. Little bit off, little bit more. Little bit off, little bit more. Come on. Almost there. Little tiny fraction more. Just a couple of strokes ought to do it. There we go. Cool. And last one, the high E. Bit more. Oh man, I am starving. I know that if I don't get this sorted, I'm going to lose my focus. Wee bit more, just a wee bit. There we go. Excellent. Cool. With the slots cut, I can now get to actually doing setup and making sure everything's doing what it needs to do. Alright, that's there, that there. So they can go to the bin. Now, where is my, there we go, action gauge. That is very low. That is way too low. Yeah, let's tune it down. Let's go to drop stupid. That means I need to buy a paintbrush for dusting between string changes. Seriously, it is one of those things that a lot of people don't realize is worthwhile having. You know, this one's a bit of a crap brush, but a good quality brush will actually last a long time. They won't fray out quite so much. But yeah, just for like in between changes and stuff like that, clearing out that kind of stuff. Because when you get rid of the dust as well, you got less stuff that's going to get stuck to it, cause it to stick there and like really sort of affect sort of how the finish and everything is. All right. Ugh, okay, come on. Oh, good. Got to purchase on these screws because one of the bad parts about the Fender Strat design is that you've got the bridge screws and the likes, and they fill up with gunk and detritus, and try to turn them is an absolute nightmare. Alright, that's better. Nice. From there we go to the next one, which is way too low. Tension off. Into there. Let me go. This. Gunky. That shit nasty. Yes. Pick guards. They get dusty and dirty and nasty.
That's better. Sub 1mm action. Possible on some guitars. Not necessarily this one. I don't think the guy who owns it wants it that low. The good thing about it as well, when we're actually raising up the action down here at the bridge to get into a reasonable point, is that now we're getting those screws actually closer to the saddle, so they're not going to like dig into the underside of your palm. How are we looking now? That's better. Up a wee bit there. That's better. Yep. G string. Everyone's favorite conical string. In there. Up a wee bit. And up there as well. Cool. Go up a wee bit more. Indeed, don't we all? Love me to get old G string. Then it gets a bit embarrassing when it becomes the air on the G string. Childish humour from an Aussie. The way it should be. Alright, up a little bit more there. A bit more there. .75 on the high E. Yeah, it's a bit on the stupid side. Even my most shreddy of shred players I do setups for don't go below a 1. 1 mil is like way low enough even for the fastest fleet-handed of player. Wee bit more. intonation. It's a bit on the low side. No idea who you are. Bullio in New South Wales. Dr. Gear6 speaking. Yeah. It's a bit flat. Give me a pick. Where's the picks? There we go. Picks there. There we go. Yeah, it's because it's got because it's just set up on the generic noise reducer profile, so it's kind of cutting off anything that it determines to be outside of like regular sort of range. So it's picking it up very close to where the mic is here, and the guitar's close, but it's still not enough to quite trigger it and open it fully. Just a wee bit more. Good. Yeah, once I'm done with all the tweaking and that, then we should be able to just give it a quick rammer jam through, make sure it's playing the way it should, and I can send it on its way to the customer tomorrow. Let's raise it up a wee bit. Dialing in until it feels perfect. Down a wee bit there. Like so. And a fraction of a mil. Another fraction, come on. All these teeny tiny little measurements. There we go. There. Excellent. What do you want? And I do you are. Yes, yes. I'm not here. Okay. Hush. Don't care. There we go. All right. Let's get some power. Yeah, screamy. That's right. Nice.
Cool. Excellent. Well, this seems to be all done. Give it a bit of a clean, bit of a polish up, send it on its merry way. Nice. Get it back in tune a bit. There we go. Ah! Yeah, really awkward to play at this angle. Cool. Excellent.
Customer can go on his merry, merry way now.
There we go. Cool. Excellent. Well, that's about it from me for today because I'm going to go grab me some lunch and then, I don't know, work on some other things in the afternoon. That's the important stuff. So, until the next time, I'll catch you guys again.